Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Let's Learn Discernment and Vocations. So today we're going to be talking about marriage, finally. So really just today's going to be shorter. We're going to be covering two things: how to discern marriage, just from a basic standpoint, and then rules about discerning marriage that you really got to know. So first of all, how to discern. So first of all, I'm going to say that dating without dating, we're gonna cover a couple no's and yeses, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. So what I mean by dating without dating is essentially you're dating without any expectations. It's kind of like you're just doing it for fun, and I don't mean to say that you can't have fun on a date or just date somebody because you want to, but what I mean is the point of a date is that it's step one towards marriage. And so over here on the left, I said intentionality is key. Both parties need to have an unspoken expectation that a date is step one towards marriage. If you're dating somebody and you're like, oh, I would never marry them, that's a problem. That's a big problem. How many relationships, I said, how many succession of dates, or maybe just even one date, but how many relationships and just multiple dates end up hurting people because somebody on one end just had zero intentionality with it and never intended to go that far. They just wanted to have fun. This was just a placeholder. They were going at it from some need that they had from themselves. They needed to feel wanted. They needed to feel like they were on top of the hierarchy. Maybe two of those things are, maybe guys just want to feel the power of being able to just date any girl or go on a date with any girl, and then maybe a girl will have a desire to, be wanted or something, and so they just date, and both of those are toxic. Both of those are very bad reasons to date somebody. You should be dating because you want that person and because you want to get married to that person. And not to say that, guys and girls can't have those same reasons flipped. I just hear a lot that it tends to be that way. Dating without dating, having no expectations, just for fun, hookups, dates. No. Okay, it's just going to mess you up. Who's texting me? Oh, Mom. Dating. Yes. So here's the yes dating. You set expectations. And again, this doesn't mean you sit down at a restaurant, you're eating or you're hanging out and you're just like, okay, so if this goes well, we'll have another one. Then maybe after 10 dates, we'll decide we're going to be into a relationship. And then, after 20 dates, we'll decide we're going to get engaged. Okay, no, it doesn't need to be that. But the idea is that there's kind of like you're dating with an expectation that this is step one towards marriage. They're dating for that. And I think I don't know. I want to say most people do that, but I don't know. Your intention in dating is that you're using these dates to discern marriage, and it doesn't have to be so like, oh, this date is to discern marriage. It's just like no. But it is. If you're dating, the idea is you're saying, okay, is there something wrong with this person? Am I compatible with them? And again, most people have this. Most people, when they're dating, this is the whole point of dating. There should be nothing controversial about this, but it is, because lots of people are like, well, there's nothing wrong with just dating just to date. And it's like, well, it depends. It depends why you're doing it, what you're doing it, and what the expectations are. If you want to call something harmless a date, but there's no way you're getting physically intimate. There's no way you're kissing somebody. There's no way you're having sex with somebody and emotions aren't being formed inside you. And there's no way there's strings that aren't being tied between you. You can't lie to yourself. You can't lie to your body. Dang, maybe I'll make that one of these rules. Okay, maybe that'll be next episode. Okay, another one I said. This one's way later on, obviously, but living together, dating's the good way to discern marriage. Living together is not. Not only, obviously you wouldn't do that till a certain step in dating, but not only does it not work as a test for marriage, but despite common sense, it actually makes things worse in certain circumstances. People say oh well, it lets you know that you shouldn't be married to the person. Look, if you need to live with somebody for you to realize that you shouldn't be marrying them in the first place, you suck at discernment. You are a blind bat. You may end up having a divorce if you're that blind and stupid. Okay? On the other hand, if the thing that was going to make you not marry them was the fact that they have a messy room and they don't clean their clothes off the floor that often, or they leave their toothbrush out, I mean, honestly, you should leave the toothpaste out. I have to get that toothpaste out of the cupboard every time my wife puts it away. It's so annoying. Anyway, if that's what's going to make you decide to break off this relationship and not get married, maybe they shouldn't be marrying you. Okay? There's no good reason, okay? Now, let me give you an example, okay? I read this on on Reddit the other day, but there was somebody sharing that their boyfriend was an absolute slob and that she couldn't get over it and she was thinking about breaking it off. And she's like, yeah, I came into the bathroom and like he's just like gross, like there was poop on the toilet seat. It's like, look, if you're in a relationship with a guy that leaves poop on the toilet seat, first of all, break up with him. Second of all, that's not the only thing wrong with him. If that's the only thing wrong with him, then this is the most interesting person in the world. No, there are other signs that there is something wrong with this person that they would leave poop on a toilet seat. Okay? And not clean it up when you ask him to. Okay. Okay. Man, that's what I mean when I say you're blind. Okay? There's no way you date somebody like that and there's not clues. But what people do is they don't discern. They don't think about it. They don't evaluate. They don't look at all the aspects of a person. Okay? They just, I don't know why they leave it. So I also threw up here, I said leave some benefits for marriage. Okay? So like, obviously the only red line is, sex of any kind. But look, in the Catholic Church, living together before marriage is grounds not to do a marriage. Like the priest will not do it until you've lived together for a little while or if you've not lived together for a little while before getting married. Because if you're living together already, then you're not exactly free to say yes to the person because you're already in a situation where you're dependent on one another. And so there can be coercion, there can be fear, there can be, well, I need this person, there can be all kinds of weird things going on. So in the Catholic Church, they're not going to let you get married until you wait a while not living together. Now look, there's other circumstances, If you had a kid outside of marriage and you're living together, obviously the church is going to let you get married. This is just a general rule, not an absolute rule, okay? The only absolute red line is that you shouldn't be having sex before marriage. But now look, you should still leave some other benefits for marriage. Like, marriage is supposed to be special. The amount of society that makes nothing, like, there's a reason that so many people don't care to get married anymore. It's because they're pseudo-married. They're married without the commitment. They're living together. They might even have kids. And they just never got married. And it's like, okay, you're living it right, but you're not psychologically doing this right. You're not spiritually doing this right. It's like, commit to one another. Dang. Like, there's either some broken idea of marriage in their head. But yeah, leave some benefit of marriage. Don't sleep in the same bed before you get married. It's tempting. It sucks, having to, leave at like 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning, after like hanging out with a person all night. And then, you could just totally like sleep over. Don't do that. If you're going to sleep over, if it's too dangerous to drive, just try to have a commitment, we'll save sleeping in the bed till marriage, and you should especially do that if it's going to become a temptation for you. But, you got to decide in your own relationship. That's not up to me. That's up to you guys and your relationships. And it's up to you, and it's up to God, right? Like you wanna discern like what's right and wrong for you. I'm not gonna get too detailed here, but I remember talking to a friend about their relationship, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we do this," and I was like, "You do what? Like that'd be a problem for us, you know? Like you can't. We would never do that. Like there's like we made a line there, you know, but they did it anyway, and it wasn't sex or anything, but it was just a line that we made we made in our relationship that they didn't make in theirs. And on the other hand, I have friends who are like, oh, you can't even like sleep over at their place, and it's just like, whoa, okay, like that's a stricter line than we had. But if that leads them to some kind of temptation, then that was understandable for them. Different relationships have different lines, and they need to decide those lines for themselves. Okay. Last one. Discerning before dating. Who says that you should even date in the first place? All right. Dating doesn't have to be step one towards discernment. Okay. Discerning whether you should even date that person could be step one towards discernment. Let's say you got the hots for somebody, you totally want to date them, but you sit down and you pray and you evaluate it and you think about them and you and how you'd work out, and you realize they're a train wreck and they would cause you to crash too. Who says you should even date that? You don't want to crash. You don't need to date them to realize that you're not going to work out in the end. Okay, save yourself some trouble. Save yourself some hurt. Save both of yourselves some time. Don't even date. Discern before, okay? So dating and discerning before dating, great. Dating without expectations, just for fun, without, any intentionality, living together. These are things that are going to muddle the waters of discernment. 1 and 3 are going to muddy the waters of discernment. It's going to make it harder. It's going to make it less clear. If you're living together, boy, it's going to be hard to discern marriage when you're living half of it. When you're already coerced, you can be like, well, part of me feels like I shouldn't, but it's what I'm in right now. I don't want to leave it. It'd be too hard to cut this off. Man, you did that to yourself. Just wait till you have a couple kids and then you realize you need a divorce. It's going to be way rougher then, all because you decided you want to live together and you decided you didn't want to cut it off because it was convenient for you and you still liked him, even though you knew you probably weren't going to, you weren't going to be fulfilled. Ugh, living together just ruins that. Okay, and then dating without dating, man, that's lying to your body. That's lying to your brain, your emotions. Okay, have some intentionality with it. All right, rules for discerning marriage. Number 1. Wait, number 1. No, I guess this was just tips. Okay, number 1. You have to be attracted to the person. Okay? You can't plan on becoming attracted to them in the future and just date them now. Marriage is procreative and unitive. Should have learned that last year, all right? I mean, sex is supposed to be procreative and unitive, right? So the procreative aspect of marriage is sex. Sex is about attraction, okay? You see that transitive property, marriage is procreative and unitive, so marriage is procreative. Procreative is about sex. Sex is about attraction, okay? It's like a 2-step transitive property, which means if you're not attracted to the person, you are not called to get married to them. Okay? No attraction means that the procreative aspect of marriage is not being truly met. So I have a friend who, for years, was not attracted to this girl. She liked him. Hope they never watch this. They know who they are. And she was totally after him the whole time. Was not wising up, was not realizing that this wasn't going to work out. Man, how detailed should I get this? I don't think anyone knows this person. She literally moved out from a different state to live with her extended family to be around him. That was 90% of the discernment she took to move out here. So we're all friends. But what makes this more fun is that I liked her at the time. So, drama. But anyways, so we're all friends. She totally likes him. And just for years, he just not showing interest. And so after I realized that I'm not going to end up with this girl, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to talk to this guy about what he thinks about her. Because, we're not rivals anymore. And so he's like, yeah, I just don't really want to be with her. And I was like, okay, interesting. Like, why would you not? Being somebody who liked her, I couldn't understand why you wouldn't. And he's like, I'm just not attracted to her. And first of all, I'm offended because what does that say about me, right? But second of all, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, what about like, actually, you know what? I had a theory at the time. Actually, I still have this. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter now that I'm married. There are three things you need. I call this like the stool of discerning marriage. I say you need physical attraction. Your personalities need to be right, and you need spirituality. Okay. Um, Obviously, if you're not religious, you don't care about that last one. But it's really important if you have any shred of a faith. Um, and you'll find if you have all three of these things that if you point to a couple that works out and point to a couple that doesn't, uh, I can show you. There's other things involved, but I might be able to show you at least one of the legs of the stool that weren't working out. And if you have all three, the chance of your marriage working out is way better. If you both find spirituality important, and your spiritualities, mend with one another, your personalities mend, and you're both physically attracted to another, that's grounds for success. Okay, that's marry them. But anyways, so guess what happens with this couple? Or well, spoiled it. They end up dating a while later, after he discerns some more, after he hears a homily about bones. That would make the story be even longer. But yeah, I'm not gonna go into that. But anyways, the idea that you can well, actually, what happened is it was a homily from my dad. My mom had supposedly was gonna have she had some like precancerous stuff going on in her jawbone, and it was growing, like her jawbone near her temple was growing. So they had to cut it out and remove it, this like big chunk. And they took a piece of her leg bone and put it in. And I guess the way that bones work is that they can like grow into one another and like become the same type of bone where they get put or something. And so my mom's leg bone started becoming like her jawbone. So for whatever reason, this example in my dad's homily convinces him that, maybe if you just give something enough time, it'll work out. And so, fake it till you make it type thing. So they start dating. And he kind of confides to me while they're dating, I said, I tried to ask him once before. I said, if you had to say 1 to 10 how attracted you are to this person, what number would you put? And he really avoided doing one. Maybe I'm getting the story wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said like 7. And so I like wrestled it out of him. And so I was like, okay. And then, so I asked him now that he's dating, I said, how attracted are you to this person? Because you used to say like 7. And he was like, I'm becoming more and more attracted to her every day. And I'm like, yikes, that's not what you want to hear. So then they're married, and it's like month 1 of marriage, or month 2 of marriage, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, just curious, how attracted you are to this person? You know what he says to me? You got it. Becoming more and more attracted every day. Yikes. Is that what you want? Is that what you want for your marriage? Then don't plan on becoming attracted to him in the future. Wait till you're attracted before you marry him. Now, maybe you could date, but don't get into a relationship. Maybe just go on a date, see if you can get attracted to him. Don't get into a relationship if you're not attracted, okay? Well, this is all out of order. All right, extension of rule number 1. Children are an extension of being attracted to a person. Okay? It's that procreative aspect. It is not a Christian marriage in any view if you don't intend to have children. Okay? Marriage is procreative and unitive. There is no more, what did I write here? Oh, this is no more marriage than if 2 people had children without being in love. So, procreative, right? If you don't have children, it's not procreative marriage. You could say, but if 2 people had children but weren't in love, and that's not any more of a marriage, right? Like if you're just having a kid with somebody you're not attracted to and you're not in love with, that's not a marriage. People would agree, oh, that's not a marriage. Well, then not having kids isn't a marriage either. Okay? Well, it is if you intend to have kids. But if you don't intend to have kids, then you're missing a whole half of the marriage. And on the right here, I said this shouldn't be controversial in this, but in this day and age, it is. Without children, romance literally wouldn't exist in the first place, from a developmental standpoint, from an evolutionary standpoint. So there should be nothing controversial about saying that you should intend to have children in a marriage, because that's literally the whole reason that marriage was evolved in us in the first place, getting with somebody. If there's no drive to have children, there's no drive to romance. Okay, so you're just, I don't want to say you're cheating the system, but you're cheating yourself. You're the system, okay? Well, I messed this one up too. Rule number 2, if you aren't called to have children, you aren't called to marriage. Yeah. Now look, there are many people who are called to marriage who kind of struggle with the idea of having kids, all right? It doesn't mean you're not called to have kids. If you feel called to marriage and you don't feel called to have kids, there's either two things. Either you're called to have kids and there's something you need to get over, or you're not called to marriage. But they're a package, all right? So there are many people who are called to marriage, but they struggle with the idea of children. So they feel like I don't want children, either due to how they were raised with their own family. They didn't like it. They really didn't like their parents. They felt like they were damaged. They have a personal emotional baggage. There's other personal issues with them, okay? God needs to free you from that. God wants to free you from that, okay? Don't hold yourself back with that, Don't, stop you're not going to continue the perpetual cycle of abuse by not having kids. You're gonna stop it by stopping it. Like, be a better parent, okay? Or perhaps just simply common human fears. Maybe you're just afraid of having a kid. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of work, okay? If you're called to marriage, this is something to be overcome, all right? Whatever the past baggage, the past emotional issues, how you were raised, or just your human fears. It's something you got to overcome at some point, okay? You got to grow as a human. So on the top right here, I said if marriage is a natural calling that everyone has due to being human and having a sexual body, right, a little less sexual, so too having children is a natural calling that every person has, because you cannot divorce sex from its purpose, all right? So if you're called to marriage naturally by the fact of you having a body designed for sex, therefore designed for marriage, then you're called to have kids, because you can't separate marriage from children, and you can't separate marriage from sex. You can't separate sex from children. Okay, it's like a triangle, and you can't separate any one from the other. Okay, people who have sex without being married, you're lying to your body, and you're going to experience emotional damage. And if you don't, it hasn't hit you yet. It's subconscious. If you have a desire to not have children but still be married, there's a fullness of the human experience that you might still need to grow in. Okay. When you go from, like, you guys are teenagers, you're still developing. You're developing what you want, okay? So you know partly what you want right now, but you're still developing it, and you're not going to fully know what you want probably till the time that you get out of college, okay? So if the idea of children seems scary to you right now, and that, I don't know if I want it, well, of course it seems scary to you. You're in high school. Like, nobody wants a child in high school, okay? But you might feel very differently later. And if you still feel the same way, then perhaps there's something that you didn't develop between your teenage years and your future that you need to go back and pick up on. Maybe it's the idea of being responsible for another human being. Maybe you're just scared of that, and you need to grow. You're not going to be a full human until you can have the capacity to be responsible for another human being. Okay? Maybe it's, it could just be all the past baggage stuff. Who knows? But or it could just be selfishness, which is something to overcome. You just don't want to have to deal with giving up time, energy, money to raise another person. Okay, fair enough. And honestly, the statistics show that people who don't have kids are happier than people who have kids. But my ultimate question for that is, okay, but what's the right metric to measure by? Is it happiness or is it fulfillment? Because I'm going to always say that fulfillment is way better than happiness. And you know why? Because when you ask the people who have children who say that they're not as happy, they say, okay, would you go back and do it again? And they go, oh, hell yeah. Now, there's some people who don't, but there's some people who go, yeah, I would. even though even though you're not as happy, and then they go, doesn't matter, it makes me more fulfilled. Okay, there's something deep, there's something that calls to the deep intrinsic nature of the human person when you have kids. Okay, last one. You're called, rule number 3, you're called to multiple people. There's no the one. There are many ones that you're called to. And you're called to all of them. Now, no, I'm not talking about polygamy, okay? Not talking about the Mormons here. You're called to pick one of the ones. There's many ones, and you're called to pick one. Now, hopefully, they're called to you too, all right? Now, this gets to rule number 4. You can be called to one person, but they might not be called to you, okay? Now, this is a controversial idea with other Christians because typically, if this is controversial to them, then they're probably the people who believe in the one God's plan theory, whereas I'm more of the multiple God's plan theory, okay? This is controversial then because it means that God is messing up his own calling. No, I think that they misunderstand how God calls and how vocations work. Okay, I'm going to skip to the bottom point. God's calling is something that's inside of you. It's not some dictatorial directive from above. Okay? It's not like God has this like Lego building he's making and like there's only one way this piece fits. Okay? So I say it's not controversial if you understand that God's calling is for you to end up with the best person for you. So maybe this person would be the best person for you. And your body and your mind and your spirituality is all telling you, yeah, this person is the best person for me. But it could be that person isn't the best person. Sorry, you're not the best person for them as well. Okay? So they could be the best person for you. They could be one of the ones that you're called to. But you might not want to be the best people for them. Okay. And so there you go. Easy. If they're not attracted to you, if they're not, mending with your personality, if they're not called to you, then stop seeking after them, okay? Because you're not called to them in the end of the day, even though, well, you kind of were, but they're not called to you. So just break it off. At the end of the day, it's not God's calling because one of you isn't called to the other person, okay? It's kind of like a double layer of God's calling there.